The Mesa Chamber of Commerce Inside Business Podcast brings you a unique view of Mesa through its vibrant business community and the subjects that are important. The podcast is produced in the Mesa Chamber of Commerce Media Studio. Our podcast is hosted by Mesa Chamber of Commerce CEO Sally Harrison. Please enjoy this episode of the Mesa Chamber Inside Business Podcast.
Hi, I'm Sally Harrison with the Mesa Chamber of Commerce, and today in our podcast studio, I have a friend of mine, Tony Anger, and he is with Grounded No More, and he's also our Micro Nonprofit of the Year this year. Congratulations, and thanks for being here.
Well, thank you. It's an honor to be here.
Wow.
I'm still walking on clouds. I had no idea that was going to happen.
Well, that's good. It's supposed to be a fun evening and a surprise at our Mesa Has Heart event. I know you're celebrating your 10th season in doing this with your flight lifts.
We just had our 10th season.
Yeah, so talk about what your mission is of the organization and what led you to where you are today.
Well, the long and the short story, it was totally accidental. I was flying the B-17 for the commemorative Air Force out here.
Mm-hmm.
The beautiful one. It's one of, I think, only 4 left flying today. And they sell rides.
Mm-hmm.
And we had a young gentleman that came out from the Army. He was young. He was probably 18 years old. And he wanted to go for a flight in the B-17. And he thought that the price was $42.50. When he found out it was $425, poor kid about had a heart attack.
I can imagine.
And he found this out after he'd handed the lady his bank card.
Oh, no.
And he was very embarrassed, and I felt terrible for him. And my original intent was just to walk over and go pay for it. I had a good job at the time flying for American Airlines, so it wasn't a big deal to me, but for him, that was probably a month's salary.
Sure.
You know? And then I kind of felt God punching me in the shoulder, saying, you can do more than that.
Oh.
And I said, hey, how'd you like to go for a ride in an airplane that your grandfather learned how to fly in? And I had just purchased a 1943 Fairchild PT-26, was a very popular airplane for me because my dad had one when I was a kid, and that's the airplane I learned how to fly in. Yeah, and I just said, you want to go for a ride in that? And he said, sure. How much is that? I said, nothing. I was going to go fly. Let's go fly. And I got so much out of it. I went home, and I was just emotionally drained because when we came back from the flight, we sat in my hangar, and he told me all about his grandfather and how he got into the military. His grandfather was actually a B-17 pilot in World War II. So I get to hear a lot about him, a lot about his family, and it was just a really fun afternoon. And I went home and I told my wife about it, and I said, hey, I want to do more of this, So I just put a little ad in Facebook and said, hey, if you're a vet, you want to go for a ride in a World War II airplane, give me a call. And it wasn't that big a deal the first couple of years. I probably had maybe, or first couple of months, maybe 10 people. By the end of the year, I realized I'd taken up almost 100 people.
In the first year?
In the first year. And
wow.
Several of them were World War II pilots, which were very meaningful for me because my dad served in World War II in the Navy. Anyway, so that's basically how it gets started. And then it's just evolved into a big thing. When I was still flying for American, it wasn't that big a deal for me to take people for rides on the weekend. But after I retired, I went from making, almost $500,000 a year, making nothing.
And giving a lot away.
And giving a lot away.
Yeah.
But anyway.
So is that when you had the idea to call it Grounded No More?
No, I called it Grounded No More right from the start. And I called it Grounded No More Veteran Flight Lift, which makes it really hard for our website, because that's what the website is.
Sure.
But anyway, I tried to figure things I could do. So I said, I wonder if I could do a 501c3, and did a little research with the IRS, and they approved me the very first time I tried, which just blew me away. I couldn't believe it because I'd heard, it takes several tries, and lawyers and everything else, and it was just something I wrote up myself. Way before ChatGPT came out.
Right.
And so I just said, maybe this is God telling me to move in this direction. And I started asking people if they'd like to volunteer, and because originally it was just me in the airplane, and I would always do the same thing. I'd thank him for the service, and I'd say we always pray before we fly. So I'd say a little prayer with them, and then we'd go fly, and I'd let them fly a little bit. I'd explain what the guys would learn on their very first day.
Yeah.
And the first airplane was a British airplane, which fit in perfectly with Falcon Field.
Sure.
Falcon Field was built in 1941 just for British pilots. They also had Canadian pilots and Chinese pilots that trained there, but it was a very historical airport.
Yeah.
So it was perfect, for that.
Yeah.
Over the years now, we've got 4,000 members. We've got
and a member is somebody who's flown with you.
not somebody who's flown with me. That's somebody that has either volunteered or just joined our group.
Okay.
And like a membership for any other club. We don't charge, so it's easy to join. So,
Nice.
And but so far we've taken up 763 veterans who we've
That's
taken
incredible.
Up.
Well, I've been fortunate to come out for some of your flights and meet some of those veterans, and it's always very special. Every single one just has a different story, and it's just really a special
and that's
day.
the best part of it. There's other organizations that take people flying, but it's normally they want to take a pilot or they want to take somebody from World War II, which is grand. I mean, we put them at the first of the list. But
Sure.
my attitude has always been, I don't care if they sat at the desk at a base somewhere and doing paperwork or flying a B-2 bomber in war. It's you joined, you served, you joined,
Sure.
you signed on the dotted line, basically giving your life to this country.
Yeah.
And I wanted to be able to honor those that normally just get overlooked.
Mm-hmm. So what's your history with veterans?
I joined the Air National Guard back in the mid 70s, I guess, to be a pilot. And I wanted to fly F4s. I was going to be in the first F4 class with the DC Air National Guard, the 113th. And about 2 weeks before the class started, they canceled it because a couple of guys had busted out in AMS, which is kind of like OCS for the Guard. Military people know exactly what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
We're basically an acronym waiting for a place to happen. But anyway, and I was too old for the next class, and so I missed out on getting to fly.
Oh.
I tried to get waivers. I did everything I could. I did office work. I just hung around. I did a little accident investigation, which was basically looking for typos on reports and things like that. And then for about 2 years, I kept trying to get in. I could never get a waiver. I was offered a backseat position, which I should have taken. But being an arrogant, 24-year-old, I was just too stupid to do that. And then, I ended up being in active reserve for about 4 years. And then one day I got a letter in the mail saying I was honorably discharged. And I was, when I saw that Forrest Gump movie and he got his, I said, oh, wow, it was almost the same thing.
Wow.
So, but I never got to do what I really wanted to do. And people say that all the time, but it's really true with me. My dad was Navy. My Uncle Alan was a general, in the Army. And just, I've just always had a heart for veterans. And, I remember during the Vietnam War when we lived in Washington, D.C., and, people were protesting.
Yeah.
My dad has us going down with flags as little kids, holding up flags and welcoming the troops back. And, and I just, went all the way to adulthood.
That's awesome. Well, talk about how the Mesa community's influenced the work that you're doing and why it's been such an important place for this organization to grow.
Well, it's kind of good and bad. I love that you called me up one day and asked me to join. I just thought that I said, wow, getting to join the Chamber of Commerce. Well, I still have my little plaque in the hangar.
Good.
And just a lot of support from the airport, from you guys, especially with the Aviation Fascination Night, which was really big. We got a lot of notoriety from that. We have a lot of people that came by, donated, bought the shirts and things like that.
Are you going to be there again this year?
Yeah, we haven't missed it. We've been there every year since they've started doing it.
Yeah.
So I love doing it. It's a big night for us. We love doing it. We get to meet a lot of really cool people, and and I hang around with all my buddies because there's so many friends of mine that I've made out there.
Sure.
But we had a couple of people complain about us flying out of the hangar, so and that was really kind of distressing for us. But then Corinne called me up, the airport manager, and said, you can use the terminal if you like. So we've been using the terminal ever since, which is really, it's a pain for us to bring everything over there and do it.
Sure.
But the, clean bathrooms and just, the
set up a little bit more for an event.
The setup is perfect.
That's awesome.
And Cunningham has been wonderful. They clear airplanes out of the way for us so we can have our airplanes out front,
That's great.
hangar and stuff. So it's been good.
Well, receiving the Mesa Has Heart Award is, as you said, meaningful recognition. what does the honor represent to you, your team, and the people that you serve, those families?
Yeah, it's not so much me. It really recognized our veterans on top, but the biggest thing is it recognized our volunteers.
Yeah.
I mean, we have so many people that come out. I mean, it's fun for me. I get to fly the airplane, so it's,
Yeah.
you know, and I love flying, so it's exciting for me. I get to meet my heroes. But we have volunteers that come out every Sunday, you know, and they're there at, some of them, a couple of them show up at 6 in the morning with me to help set up and do everything else. So they're the ones that are really dedicate that, you know, that little trophy. And it's a beautiful trophy, very heavy.
It is nice, yeah.
But I told all the volunteers, I said, this is for you guys. You're the ones that made this happen, because, like I said, originally it was just me, and now it's like we have a whole group of people that come out every weekend. You know,
That's awesome.
that to me blows me away, because it's nice to know. And you know, one of the things that it reminded me of, I remember years ago, I got a letter from a vet who had come out for a ride, and he was pretty quiet. He didn't really want to talk. I always ask him if they'd like to tell us about our service. And sometimes they do, sometimes they don't, you know. And this guy was very quiet, and he got a little emotional. And I remember I said, do you want to tell us anything about your service? And you could see he started to tear up. And one of the other guys, Chris, who's one of our volunteers, he's our guy that kind of helps me run everything on the ground, just walks over and says, or not, you don't have to say anything. And he goes, yeah, I'd rather not. So I said, okay. So we went for a flight. And we came back, and we usually sit around the hangar, and if they want to hang out with us, you know, we sit around the hangar, we'll have a cocktail and usually a cigar. It's kind of our fun little thing to do. And he opened up a little bit and started talking to me. He wanted to talk to me outside the hangar. And he said, you know, I was unbelievable this what happened today. He says, I never had anybody talk to me like this. He says, I got off the plane in San Francisco in uniform, and people spit on me, you know, and called me a baby killer and all these, you know, awful things, you know. And he says, I seriously contemplated taking my own life. He says, I had no idea people cared this much about, you know, veterans. And now I was really emotional when he was saying that. And then to top it off, 2 weeks later, his wife, they lived in Minnesota, they'd come down here just for the flight. And the wife calls me up 2 weeks later, and she goes, I don't know what you did to him, but he has not stopped talking. She goes, we've been married for 48 years. I've heard more stories in the last 2 weeks than I've heard in 48 years of marriage.
That's awesome.
Which just blew me away. I was like, you know, so
That's
great. God's working with us, you know. There's things are happening, and it's like I said, it's totally accidental.
That's
I never
awesome.
had any idea that people would, you know, respond like that.
Yeah, well, it's special. Well, the phrase Mesa Has Heart means something different to everyone. I mean, I made that comment after COVID, and I think, you know, I thought Mesa does have heart. There's proof of that every day with the people here, right, and the businesses. When you hear that phrase, Mesa Has Heart, what comes to your mind?
Well, I know that you care. You care about your community. You know, when you see so many things around here. I just heard a thing on the radio the other day that you guys are 10th in something. I forget what it was, but I was like, wow, Mesa, that's pretty cool. You know.
Yeah.
So, and when we first moved out here, this first place we lived was Mesa.
Yeah.
Which, but you know, I just remember we had my mom out here for a while. She could never pronounce it. She was from Maine, so she thought it was Mesa, which is the same way Siri pronounces it. But anyway, you know, I was just overwhelmed at the response of the community and everybody around. You know, we were brand new, and people are telling us where to shop, where to go, and just, you know, it's a great community.
There was a DJ that I worked with when I first started, and he used to say, Mesa's a great place.
Oh, I like that.
I think there's something special here, and it really is the people, you know. There's just a lot of people that really care. As you look ahead to the next 10 years, what are the goals that you have for Grounded No More, and how can the community support that vision?
Well, since I'm going to be 71 this year, I'm hoping I'll still be alive.
Okay, let's not talk that way.
No,
You're too stubborn.
I'm in good shape, so I feel good there. I would like to continue. I'd love to see it evolve into something bigger. You know, I've had other people call me and want to see if they could expand. Like I had a guy in California that wanted to do the same thing, but he wanted me to pay for it all. So I was like, well, no, you got to figure out your own, your own source of money and stuff. But I'm actually going to have a meeting with a company that does a lot of fundraising, and they're talking a lot of money. So I would love to see it expand and hire other pilots. And but my biggest dream is for my two boys to take it over because they're both pilots as well.
Awesome.
I just got they're busy raising. Well, one's raising a dog, the other's raising two girls. So
Are they local?
They are local, yeah. And
Awesome.
They're both pilots, so they're
Nice.
both really good pilots. And I think, I'm hoping, they'll have more of a heart. I was, in and out of the military way before they were ever born or before I was ever married. So, they don't really know any history. And I didn't, I stupidly didn't save any of that stuff. I was so angry that I didn't get to fly that, I threw it all away. But, I look nowadays, I look back and I go, wow, it's pretty cool. The people that I've met, one of the things that I thought was really cool, and I didn't really realize how cool back in the day, but when I was at the 113th and Andrews, our commanding officer was Benjamin Davis, who was the guy that started the Tuskegee Airmen.
Oh my goodness, really?
And it was really funny because years later, I was sitting in the cockpit of my Airbus A320, and this older gentleman walks up to the front and he says, "Hey, mind if an old pilot comes and looks around?" And I said, "Yeah, come on in."
Neat.
And we start talking, and he says, "Yeah, I flew way back in the day, flew some Mustangs and flew some jets," and he's just going on. And I'm looking at him, and it just dawned on me. I said, "Oh my God, you're Benjamin Davis." "Oh yeah, you know me?" And I said, "Yeah, I was in the 113th." He goes, "Oh, I remember you." And of course, he didn't have any clue who I was. I never even met him when I was there. I'd seen him at parades and stuff. That was about it.
Oh, that's cool.
But I love the history of the group and stuff, and I'm still friends with several of the guys that I served with.
That's awesome.
Guys in my office.
That's great. Well, Tony, since you've been leading this incredible organization, what advice would you give to someone who wants to become more involved and make a difference in their community? Because you certainly have done that.
Find out where the need is. Like I said, this was totally accidental. I just, this guy walked up to me and wanted to go for a ride to commemorate his grandfather, and I just happened to be there. I'm, like I said, probably tell I'm fairly religious. I know God works in my life, and just be aware of what's out there. If you see a need, start doing something.
Yeah.
And ask other people to help you, because it's amazing how many people come out of the woodwork.
I think there's something for everybody, right? There's lots of different needs, and you never know which one might be of interest. But I believe everybody has time, talent, or treasure. Maybe not all three. But you always have something to give, and sometimes it's just a matter of asking. People maybe not looking for something, but if you ask and it's the right thing and they connect with it, seems to be a lot easier for somebody to jump in when somebody else has something there to offer.
Yeah. And I believe everyone is born with a gift.
Yeah.
And we all have it. We don't know what it is sometimes. A lot of times you don't find out until you're 70 years old. But there are things out there like, and I love that all three of my kids has volunteered. I remember when Maggie, my youngest daughter, who's now a mom of two, was probably 14 or 15 years old. She says, "I want to volunteer and do something." So I set her up with a group out in Gilbert. I forget the name of it. But anyway, she went and she helped out at the center to help dogs. What's the name of that company?
That's great.
Anyway, and she learned how to work with dogs and stuff, and still has good old Dexter, who's
nice.
Who's one of the dogs she adopted that is living at our house now. She's got a new baby, but
that's great.
I can't remember the name of that group because they're a great group, Dog Rescue in Gilbert. But anyway, find a need.
They're out there.
Even if you're, driving down the street and you see, one of the things I love to do, a lot of people have a problem with people begging on the side of the street. They're usually there, 9 times out of 10 is because they got a drug addiction problem or something like that. But, giving them a bottle of water or a couple of bucks or something like that's a good thing. Get out of your car and talk to them. Ask them why are they there? I've made friends with a guy I go to Flagstaff a lot, and I have a guy that sits on the corner up there. And I've actually got him to go sit and have lunch with me.
Oh, nice.
And get him to go to a center one time.
Nice.
Because he was like, I don't go there; it's dangerous. I said, come on, I'll go with you.
Oh,
And
good.
it wasn't so bad that time.
Good for you.
But like I said, it's so easy to do.
Yeah.
Just find a need.
Okay, so if somebody wants to learn more about Grounded No More, what is your website?
It's groundednomoreveteranflightlift.com, LIFT.com.
Okay.
It's a long name, but they can volunteer there. We have a Facebook page if they just go to Grounded No More on Facebook. I think we have one on Instagram as well. I haven't figured out how to do TikTok.
That's okay.
I know.
You need some younger volunteers.
Yeah, I think you need about 12 or
You need some
something,
kids.
But anyway, yeah, and our phone number's there. We operate only in the wintertime when the temperatures are cooler. It's just
Right.
too dangerous to work this time.
Sure.
But
If somebody wants to come out and be part of one of the veteran flight lifts, can they do that through your Facebook page?
They could do that through the Facebook page, or they could just show up at the airport.
Okay. Yeah, now that you don't have to go through the gates and stuff. Yeah, that's
so
cool.
they can just come out to the terminal building. It's 4800 North Falcon Drive, or East Falcon. Is it north? It is.
I'm assuming that street's runs
Yeah, it
north
does, but I
south.
think it's Easter because it used to go the other
Okay.
way. So
All right.
anyway, it's Falcon Drive. I think it's East Falcon Drive. But anyway,
Turn at
just
the
go to-
monastery.
Yeah, turn at the monastery and come in off of McKellips.
Awesome.
And go to the terminal right by the tower and, get there right at 8 o'clock and we'll find something for you to do. A lot of it's setting up. We feed them. We have a little buffet that we put out. We do coffee and donuts in the morning and we put a little buffet out after the flight's over so the families can kind of sit around. We try to do 2 flights on Sundays.
Okay.
And it's amazing because we'll have 2 people that have never met each other before that become best friends.
That's awesome.
It's kind of cool, and
Very
you'll
cool.
meet some incredible people.
Yeah.
We've had a couple of guys out there that are fairly famous, that from the area here. There's several World War II guys
That's awesome.
that are still alive in their hundreds that will
That's
come
great.
along,
Well, thank you for being here today,
Sure.
and congratulations again on your Mesa
Thank you again.
Has Heart Award. We appreciate all of what you and your volunteers do and the heart that you have for veterans.
Well, thank you. It was a real honor and, like I said, a really big surprise, but I always enjoy seeing you.
Thanks, Tony.
This has been a Mesa Chamber of Commerce Inside Business podcast. You can find all podcast episodes at iTunes, Spotify, or your own favorite podcast website. You can also find them online at mesachamber.org. Content of this podcast is copyright the Mesa Chamber of Commerce, unless otherwise noted.